There are moments when you sit still in the middle of an ordinary day and suddenly realize you no longer recognize yourself. Goals that once filled you with excitement have become nothing more than empty numbers. Everything around you still moves forward, yet inside you feel as if you're drifting aimlessly through a thick fog. That is when a quiet question rises. What am I living for? And if you listen closely, the answer can begin from this very moment. Stoic philosophy does not come to soothe you with sweet promises, but to give you clearer eyes in the darkness and steady footing in the storm. It reminds us that no one can control everything, but everyone can control how they face what comes. When you truly understand this, you stop being carried away by the expectations of others, stop running in a race you never chose. Instead, you learn to live with intention, to be fully aware of the value of the present moment and the strength within. And from here, we will take our first steps into the lessons ahead. 1. Let go of what lies beyond your reach. One of the core principles of Stoic philosophy is drawing a clear line between what is within our control and what is not. This may sound simple, yet in reality it is a lifelong challenge. We often react to every event as if all of it could be shaped by our will, pouring energy into what can never be altered. The difference between a restless mind and a steady one lies in knowing where to set limits, in walking away from battles that are not ours to fight, and in giving full attention to what can be changed through our own actions. When faced with a situation beyond control, the human instinct is to resist or to find a way to take command of it. We think that with a little more effort, with sharper planning, or with enough persistence, the world will bend to our will. But Stoicism reminds us that this is the path to exhaustion and disappointment. Reality obeys no one's wishes, and resisting it is like gripping a rope that's tightening in your hands. The harder you pull, the deeper it cuts. The solution is not to abandon all effort, but to know where to focus strength, when to act, and when to let go. Letting go here does not mean passivity or indifference. It is the deliberate choice not to let your mind be occupied by variables beyond reach. The Stoic does not avoid reality. They face it directly, accept what cannot be changed, and focus on what they can influence. This requires discipline of thought, discipline to avoid spiraling into useless rumination, discipline to stop when you see you're heading the wrong way, and discipline to keep emotions from being ruled by external forces. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not yours, do not let your soul be bound by it." This is not only a reminder about boundaries, but also a warning about inner freedom. Every time we let an external factor, a remark, an uncertain outcome, or an unexpected event dictate our mood, we hand over control of our life to something never truly in our possession. In contrast, when we release the illusion of control, we reclaim space for calm, clarity, and right action. The world will always move with unexpected shifts, and no one can foresee or govern it all. Yet many still tie their happiness to external conditions. Being loved, being recognized, being promoted, being victorious. When these conditions fail, they feel broken. But the truth is, lasting happiness does not come from everything going our way. It comes from the ability to adapt and accept when they do not. Letting go is the first step in dismantling the illusion that peace depends on securing a specific outcome. Practicing detachment does not need to start with great upheavals. It is trained in small daily moments, when sudden rain ruins your plans, when someone misunderstands your words, when a project is delayed for no clear reason. In such moments, we can either react harshly or simply acknowledge that this is beyond our reach and focus on the next step. Each time we choose the latter, We strengthen the muscle of the mind, its ability to remain composed amid uncertainty. Letting go also does not mean losing drive. On the contrary, it frees the energy trapped in pointless struggles so it can be directed toward meaningful goals. When we stop trying to control the weather, we begin to prepare well for the journey regardless of sun or rain. When we stop trying to change someone's mind, we turn our focus to living in alignment with our own values. Letting go opens the door to a different kind of strength, the strength that comes from focusing on what matters rather than scattering ourselves over what cannot be swayed. A mind unbound from what lies beyond its control becomes lighter, more flexible, and more steadfast. It does not get dragged into endless battles, distracted by sudden disruptions, or pulled into futile arguments. Every action then becomes clearer, no longer driven by fear or the pressure to win a game we never chose to play. Letting go is a life skill, a discipline of the mind, and the foundation of inner freedom. It is not surrender to fate, but a conscious choice to avoid being swept into unnecessary storms. When you understand and live by this principle, you find yourself lighter, more focused, and more at peace even as the world continues to spin in chaos. And this is the first step toward a life truly under your command, not by controlling everything, but by mastering yourself. 2. The ego is not you. One of the greatest illusions people fall into is identifying themselves with the roles, achievements, or images that society assigns to them. We grow up learning to define who I am through our job, our wealth, our status, or how others see us. When those things change or disappear, many feel as if they themselves have collapsed. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the ego, the image we and others construct, is not the true self. It is merely the outer shell, the visible surface of a far deeper reality within. The ego is built from accumulated experiences, praise and criticism, the expectations of others, and the standards imposed by society. It is like a mask we have worn so long that we believe it to be our real face. But that mask can shift with circumstances. Today you may be deemed successful, tomorrow a failure in the eyes of the world. Today you may be celebrated, tomorrow criticized. If the ego becomes your measure of worth, you will be carried away by the constant changes of the outside world. The Stoic understands that the true self, the deepest I, is not bound by the fluctuations of circumstance. Epictetus emphasized that what truly belongs to you is your mind, your choices, and your attitude. And no one can take these from you unless you hand them over. Everything else, from reputation to possessions, is temporary and lies beyond your absolute control. Recognizing this is not about rejecting all ambition or achievement, but about ensuring the mind is never enslaved to them. When overly attached to ego, people become easily provoked by criticism, obsessed with proving themselves right, and unsettled when not acknowledged. Whenever someone damages the image you try to preserve, you react as if your very being is under threat. In truth, only the ego, that fragile shell, is shaken, while the real self remains intact. The moment you realize this, you begin to create distance from impulsive reactions and respond from a steadier place. Detaching from ego does not mean abandoning ambition or goals. It means approaching them with clarity. You can still pursue a career, hone your skills and seek recognition, but you do not tie your self-worth to the outcome. When success comes, you know it is temporary. When failure arrives, you do not see it as the end. This brings a rare form of freedom. Freedom from the fear of loss and the pressure to constantly prove yourself. Living without being ruled by ego means learning to observe yourself from the outside. It is when you notice you are about to speak only to impress or to argue just to avoid losing. Each such moment is a chance to ask, does this truly reflect who I am, or is it merely the ego's reaction? When the answer leans toward the latter, you can choose silence, or act from a different place, a place of truth and inner peace. Returning to the true self also means accepting what is already within you, both strengths and flaws. Instead of hiding your wounds or pretending not to be affected, you acknowledge them as part of the human experience. The ego wants you to appear flawless, but the true self knows that imperfection is part of humanity. This frees you from the obsession of maintaining an image and allows you to focus on living so that each action reflects your core values. When you no longer identify yourself with ego, you realize something important. The events that seem to break you, failure, loss, rejection, only shatter the outer shell. They do not touch the deepest part, the place where steadiness and peace reside. And it is precisely when that shell cracks that the true self has the chance to emerge more clearly. Letting go of attachment to ego is a journey, not an instant decision. It demands self-observation, the humility to accept you are not always right, and the courage to live authentically rather than for praise. In return, you gain a lasting freedom. Freedom from the judgment of others, from the pressure to prove yourself, and from the endless game of comparison. This becomes the foundation for a life not only of peace but of depth, where you need not become anyone else, you only need to return to yourself. 3. No one is truly broken. One of the most common misconceptions people carry through life is believing they are damaged or not good enough, simply because they are going through difficult times, feeling lost, or experiencing weakness. Society often imposes an unspoken standard that we must always be strong, always be in control of our emotions, always know our direction. When we fail to meet those standards, it is easy to think we are broken and must be fixed to return to normal. Stoic philosophy views this entirely differently. A sense of being lost or fragile is not a sign of ruin, but an inseparable part of the human journey. The truth is, no one is handed a perfect map to navigate every stage of life. We move through constant changes, experience highs and lows, and continuously learn from situations we never anticipated. Feeling lost or uncertain is not proof of failure. It is a signal that you are stepping into new territory of experience and awareness. In Stoicism, uncertainty about yourself or the future is a natural state, and accepting it is the first step toward regaining balance. When we believe we are broken, we often try to repair or hide the parts of ourselves we see as wrong. We compare ourselves to others, impose unrealistic standards, and create a cycle of self-judgment. But just as the sky has its sunny days, rainy days, and heavy clouds, humans also move through cycles of emotion and energy. A cloudy sky is not broken, it is simply shifting weather. So it is with us, and periods of obscurity are simply part of life's natural rhythm. Stoicism encourages us to observe ourselves objectively, without attaching moral weight or shame to every feeling or mental state. If a day passes where you feel tired or unmotivated, it does not mean you are weak or less. It simply means your body and mind are sending a signal to rest, to restore balance. Accepting that signal and acting accordingly is not failure, it is proof of self-awareness and self-respect. From a Stoic perspective, strength does not come from avoiding pain or uncertainty entirely, but from the ability to stand up and live fully after having endured them. Wounds, losses, and mistakes do not diminish your worth. On the contrary, they can become material for growth if you choose to learn from them. Each challenge overcome is proof that your core remains intact, no matter how circumstances change. The key is to stop seeing yourself as a repair project and start seeing yourself as a being in constant growth. When you stop trying to fix yourself to fit someone else's mold, you create space to discover your true value. Instead of counting the times you've stumbled, remember the times you stood up. Instead of recording every mistake, acknowledge the moments you chose calm over anger, patience over quitting. This is how Stoics define strength, not as perfection, but as steadiness within imperfection. Believing you are broken often stems from constant comparison to idealized images of others, success stories told without the hundreds of failures behind them. Stoicism reminds us that others' perceptions, whether praise or criticism, do not define you. Only how you live each day, how you face yourself, reveals the truth of who you are. And once you understand this, you see that no one is truly broken, only human beings moving through different chapters of an unfinished story. When you let go of the belief that you must fix yourself to be worthy, you open the door to self-acceptance. This acceptance is not neglect or a refusal to grow, but a foundation from which change can emerge from love rather than fear. And from this place, you move forward with greater ease, no longer bound by shame, but guided by the quiet confidence that you are and have always been whole at your core. 4. Allow yourself to feel fully. People often believe that inner strength is shown through the ability to keep emotions unshaken, to always appear calm and rational in every situation. We are taught that crying is weakness, sadness is negative, and showing emotion means losing control. But Stoic philosophy does not see emotions this way. The Stoic does not advise suppressing or denying what you feel, but encourages facing emotions directly, understanding them, and then choosing how to respond. Emotions, whether joy or sorrow, are signals from within, reflecting our connection to the world. When we try to ignore or repress uncomfortable feelings, they do not disappear. They simply sink deeper into the mind, quietly influencing thoughts and actions. Like weeds in a garden, if left unattended, they will spread and overwhelm the healthy parts. Allowing yourself to feel fully is the act of tending to your inner garden, pulling out the roots of unprocessed emotions so the mind has space for clarity and stillness. The Stoic understands that emotions are not the enemy, they are part of living. Problems arise only when we let emotions dictate every decision without reflection. Accepting emotions does not mean letting them lead, but looking them in the eye, naming them, and letting them exist until they fade naturally. When sadness comes, allow yourself to be sad. When joy arrives, embrace it fully. Emotions are like weather, constantly changing and impossible to force into a fixed state. Trying to maintain a perfect emotional condition at all times only exhausts us and distances us from reality. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of awareness in each moment. When an emotion arises, instead of reflexively resisting it, take a pause to observe. Where is this feeling coming from? What is it trying to tell me? That pause is where reason and emotion meet, helping us avoid impulsive reactions. In that space, we find the freedom to choose to feel without being swept away, to learn from emotions instead of running from them. Allowing yourself to feel fully is also a way to live more deeply in the present. In the rush of life, we often fill every emotional gap with busyness work, entertainment, or anything that distracts us from what is happening inside. But by doing this constantly, we lose the chance to truly connect with ourselves. A person can live through many events without truly experiencing them, simply because they never gave themselves time to feel each one. The Stoic sees emotional acceptance as part of inner discipline. This discipline is not forcing yourself to be strong, but staying awake even in pain. It allows you to stand in the waves of emotion without being drowned, not by building walls against them, but by learning to float and move with their rhythm until they pass. This takes courage, because facing emotion can be far harder than avoiding it. Emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones, are often signals pointing us to deeper truths about ourselves. Fear may reveal what we are avoiding. Sadness may show that something meaningful has been lost, and anger may reflect that a core value has been violated. If we only repress or ignore these feelings, we miss the chance to understand what truly matters to us. By feeling fully, we turn each emotion into a teacher, sometimes harsh, but always offering a lesson. When you allow yourself to fully experience what is happening inside, you realize that emotions, no matter how intense, are only visitors. They come and go, but the deepest part of you, your reason, your values, your steadiness, remains. Knowing this creates a solid peace, allowing you to live more truthfully and confidently in any circumstance. And from there, you no longer fear the arrival of emotions, for you know they are not threats, but a natural part of the human journey. 5. Stepping off the invisible track. From a young age, we are taught that a person's worth is measured by what they achieve. Grades, accomplishments, awards, recognition all become the default metrics of success. As we grow older, those metrics change in form but never truly disappear. A prestigious job, a high salary, personal milestones deemed proper by society. No one writes a law that forces us to pursue them, yet the pressure is everywhere in the praise we receive when we achieve, in the comparisons when we fall behind, and in the unease when we see others surge ahead. Gradually, we are swept into a race without remembering when we began, or even knowing where we are headed. Stoic philosophy points out that living this way robs us of the ability to feel the depth of life. When all our focus is on speed and achievement, we forget why we began in the first place. Each day becomes part of a quest to be better than yesterday, or equal to others, and in the process we often overlook the quiet but meaningful things. The Stoic does not oppose striving, but asks a vital question. Is the goal you are chasing truly yours, or merely a reflex to society's expectations? The danger of this invisible race lies in its lack of a finish line. You may reach one milestone only to feel immediate pressure to reach the next. There is never a moment to pause and breathe, because the fear of falling behind is constant. Comparison becomes a false engine, driving you to adjust your course just to fit others' standards instead of listening to your own desires. This is how many lose touch with themselves. They have handed over the compass of their life to the eyes of others. To the Stoic, a meaningful life is not measured by the speed at which you reach milestones, but by the depth of each moment lived. They understand that pausing to reflect does not mean laziness or giving up, but is necessary to ensure you remain on the right path. If your only focus is moving faster, you may unwittingly drift far from your core values and lose what made life meaningful in the first place. Breaking free from the invisible race requires the courage to accept that you do not have to move in step with everyone else. This is not resistance to growth, but the discernment to choose what is worth pursuing. You can still work hard, learn, and improve yourself, but your goals must come from within, not be imposed from without. The difference is that you act from an inner compass, not from the need to meet expectations or avoid judgment. When you step off that track, you realize there are more important things than always being ahead. It might be peace of mind, deep relationships with those you cherish, or the ability to savor a moment without broadcasting it for validation. From the Stoic perspective, these are no less valuable than measurable achievements, for they nourish the core of who you are, the part that remains intact even if every title and possession were taken away. True freedom comes when you understand you are not competing with anyone to prove your worth. You are not defined by moving faster or slower than others, but by living in alignment with your chosen principles and aims. Instead of being driven by the pressure to constantly achieve something new, you can spend your time deepening what you already have, making the most of present opportunities and experiencing their full value. Stepping off the invisible track does not mean abandoning ambition, but putting ambition in its rightful place. It stops being a whip that drives you and becomes a current that guides you. You are no longer ruled by the fear of being left behind, but led by the sincere desire to live a meaningful life. And when you truly grasp this, you find you are no longer running an endless race. You are walking steadily on your own path, where each step forward comes from your own free choice. 6. It's okay not to have the answer yet. Human beings have a natural tendency to want to know everything, to predict what will happen, control outcomes, and find immediate answers to every question. This stems from our inherent need for safety and certainty. When confronted with life's gray areas, anxiety and unease arise easily, making us believe that if we haven't found the answer, we must be going the wrong way or not doing enough. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that not every question needs an immediate answer, and not every uncertainty is a problem to be solved. Life has seasons like a long winter, where everything seems still. We may work, study, and keep good habits, yet see no obvious signs of progress. In such times, the mind often urges us to speed up, change strategies, or find another path to get faster results. But just as seeds quietly sprout beneath the soil, many processes in life happen invisibly within, and only when the time is right will results appear. The Stoic advises patience with such processes, for the ripening of anything worthwhile requires time. Patience here is not passive waiting, but continuing to do what needs to be done with trust that today's efforts will lay the foundation for tomorrow. When you don't know the answer, focus on actions within your control, maintain personal discipline, fulfill responsibilities, care for your health, and tend to important relationships. These are like adding soil and water to a plant. Though you do not yet see the fruit, they are essential steps in its growth. One of Stoicism's key principles is accepting the limits of knowledge at any given moment. No one can see the whole picture of their life all at once. Some questions can only be answered through lived experience, and that experience must be gathered over time. Forcing yourself to find the answer now can lead to hasty decisions, causing you to miss opportunities or lessons that a little patience would have revealed. Not having the answer can also be a chance to be fully present. When the mind is not obsessed with knowing, it can truly pay attention to what is happening here and now. This not only allows you to savor life's small moments, but also makes you more attuned to new signs or opportunities. Often, answers arrive not through relentless pursuit, but through calm observation and listening. The Stoic also sees not knowing as a natural human state. No one can fully control the future, and accepting this does not make us weaker, it makes us freer. When we are no longer obsessed with predicting every possibility, we release energy to focus on what we can do best right now. This is how we maintain mental steadiness even when the world around us is unclear. Steadiness in action, even without having the answer, builds a quiet strength. Each firm step in uncertain times is a statement that our worth is not tied to whether everything is already resolved. Looking back, we see that these vague periods trained us in endurance, resilience, and faith in the process. Not having the answer is not the same as being lost. It is simply being in the middle of a journey that needs time to take shape. Accepting this not only lightens our load, but opens us to outcomes that may surpass anything we imagined. Stoicism teaches that the true value of a person is not in always knowing every answer, but in how they live, act, and keep their composure even before the answer appears. When you understand and practice this, you no longer feel pressured to know it all, but instead embrace the journey step by step with patience and trust in yourself. 7. Pain as a timely teacher. In every person's journey, there will be moments when pain arrives like an uninvited guest, bringing inconvenience, loss, and disruption. Our natural reaction is to avoid it or remove it as quickly as possible. Yet from the Stoic perspective, pain is not merely a destroyer, it is also a teacher who appears precisely when we are ready to learn an important lesson. It does not come earlier or later, but chooses the moment when we are capable of receiving it and growing from it. The Stoic believes that every event carries an opportunity to understand ourselves and the world more deeply. Pain in any form forces us to pause, reflect on what is happening, and ask questions we often ignore when life is smooth. It can reveal weaknesses in our thinking, limits in our endurance, or values we have not truly defended. Only by facing and observing pain do we discover what must change and what must be preserved. If happiness often tempts us to preserve the status quo, pain shatters our comfort zone and pushes us into a state where we must adapt. This adaptation is not merely a survival response, but a process of reshaping our mindset and our approach to life. Under challenge, we learn to set boundaries, change habits, and adjust expectations. These shifts, if left to theory or comfort alone, might take years to form, but under the pressure of pain, change happens faster and more firmly. Stoic philosophy does not encourage us to seek out pain or glorify it as inherently good. Instead, it emphasizes the importance of using it wisely. When pain comes, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is it trying to teach me?" This question opens a new way of seeing, shifting our focus from blame to the value of the experience. Even if the answer does not come immediately, the change in the question itself marks a profound shift in how we receive and process events. What makes pain a timely teacher is that it often appears when we are mature enough to learn the lesson it carries. If it comes too early, we may not have the capacity to recognize its message. If it comes too late, we may have missed the chance to change something important. Seeing this timeliness helps us resist less and open ourselves more to the experience, no matter how uncomfortable. Looking back, many realize that their most painful seasons were the foundation for major turning points in life. Those times taught them patience, the ability to let go, and the importance of living in alignment with their values. Pain not only builds endurance, it refines the person, stripping away what is unnecessary and bringing into focus what truly matters. Therefore, instead of only seeking to remove pain, learn to listen to it. Let it reveal what you must acknowledge, what you must change, and what you must protect. Pain, when met with awareness and courage, can become one of life's most profound and trustworthy teachers, leading you to growth no book or advice could ever replace. I believe that the principles of Stoic philosophy are not abstract concepts confined to books, but practical tools to be applied in every moment of life. Each lesson from letting go, freeing ourselves from comparison, recognizing the ego, accepting emotions, to learning from pain points us toward the same destination, living with awareness and intention. When we understand what is within our control, we waste less energy on the useless and gain more strength to focus on the most important thing, ourselves. This philosophy does not demand perfection or that we have all the answers, but encourages us to remain steadfast, to observe, to adapt, and to keep our composure even when the world around us changes. It is not merely a way to survive, but a way to grow and to live freely in the present moment. If you find these insights helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss future content. Remember, you do not need to control everything to live a complete life. You only need to control how you choose to respond to whatever comes. And once you can do that, you will realize that freedom and peace have always been within your reach. See you in the next video.